Hi all! Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Morning, everybody. All right, we have a lot of information to cover today. I have a message for you guys at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned. And oh my goodness, there's a lot to cover. Omid Scobie has popped up. Yep. All right, let's go. We're going to start off with Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. She is Colonel of the Blues and Royals, which is the Royal Horse Guards and the 1st Dragoons. And she went to visit Wellington Barracks in central London ahead of the coronation. Love it. Next up, as we get closer to the coronation, now we have the rehearsals. Thank you to Remoulade Sauce for the above. William was seen walking in with Charlotte, George, and in front of him, Louis. So for people saying that Louis is not going to be involved in this, I think they are incorrect. So anyway, the family was going in because, you got to have rehearsals for this sort of thing. You can't just wing it. Prince Charles was seen leaving with Sir Clive Alderton, who is his principal private secretary. And Camilla was seen leaving with her grandchildren. Talking about practice at the London Waterloo, approximately 6,000 armed forces staff arrived for coronation rehearsal. Nobody's seen anything like this in a long time. Now, other rehearsals were taking place at the same time at St. James Park. Troops were taking part in a coronation rehearsal in central London during the evening time. They have the coach that they'll be taking to the coronation, and you can see all the troops. I mean, I can imagine the amount of planning. You can also see the golden coach that they'll be riding in on their way back from the coronation. If I remember correctly, Queen Elizabeth said that the golden coach was the most uncomfortable thing she'd ever ridden in. Moving on, in Australia, they went ahead and debuted King Charles's wax replica along with the other royal family members that they have. Good likeness. Next up, because King Charles has such a good relationship with Catherine, it's being reported that he has invited her family to the celebrations. Very nice. Moving on. All right, let's talk about what happened. Apparently, a gentleman threw some shotgun cartridges onto the grounds of Buckingham Palace. And so they detained this guy around 7 a.m. after he basically walked up to the gates and threw the stuff through the gates. They were recovered and are being taken for examination. He is charged with suspicion of possessing an offensive weapon. The palace was cordoned off after they found he was also in possession of a very suspicious bag. Interesting. There were no reports of any shots fired or any injuries to officers or members of the public, and officers were still on the scene and further inquiries were continuing. Now, and then of course they reopened the roads. Now at some point they carried out a controlled explosion just as a precaution because they weren't sure exactly what was in that suspicious bag that he had. I mean, I get it. They do the same thing here in the United States. If you're not sure, somebody leaves a bag unattended at the airport, and they're not sure what it is, they'll do a controlled explosion. They'll blow up the bag rather than take the risk of opening it and somebody getting hurt. You guys know what I'm saying. Of course, it was inevitable. The memes were going to start. Somebody was caught trying to break into the palace. I'm telling you. I mean, I'm glad they didn't take any chances, but essentially the guy threw something on the ground and they arrested him. So anyway, the police go up to Jacob Rees-Mogg, I believe is how you say it, and he was in the middle of doing a broadcast, and he said, well, the police are live with us now and they've told us we've got to evacuate. And the guy that was sitting with him says, I don't see why we possibly have to move. Then they heard the explosion and he said, I think it's time to say good evening. We're going to move. And they moved them. So, they were working, but they were told they still needed to evacuate. And the guy says, can we get this officially? Because really, we're accredited. We're here to work. And we've been in war zones in the past. I mean, can you imagine? And the guy says, are you ordering us off the air? And the police go, "We are." So, I mean, you're gonna argue with the police? They're trying to move you. Unbelievable. All right, moving on. Next up, Charles had his very first garden party of 2023 as king. Over 8,000 people were there. You can see to the left, they're standing there. And then you can see Camilla in the blue and white heading out onto the lawn with everybody there. Look at how many people. I just can't imagine. Looks like everything's moving along. Sophie was looking fabulous. And guess who else was there? Lionel Richie. There he is. He'll be in the concert too. I love her dress. Wow, fabulous. And a big thank you to Remoulade Sauce, as usual, for the information on Camilla and on Sophie's outfits. I just love that he puts it together. Great. All right, next up, thank you to Luna B on Twitter. This picture showed up, and everybody was like, "Oh, wait a minute. Wait, that's Nacho, and he's hanging out with, Zara and her husband." The picture was from January from Australia at the Magic Millions Carnival on the Gold Coast. So it's an old photo, but what was interesting is there's not going to be any polo this year with Harry and Nacho. Harry could play, but I guess he doesn't like to play without his best buddy, Nacho. Looks like Nacho and his wife went back to Argentina. Moving on. All right. Now, with all of this going on, we know that 3 major appearances were made by Meghan Markle in the last week. We had the TED Talk, the basketball game with Harry, her partnership with the Hollywood agency, and she's trying to take the attention away. But of course, Omid Scobie, we knew that he was going to pop up, right? So he shows up on TV, says, "Oh, that's not true." And he says, "Yeah, the royals are relieved that Meghan's not showing up." So what I want to do here is pick apart what he had to say in this interview. Because what he did was some of the stuff he said was really nasty. Oh my gosh. He denied that he knew Harry and Meghan. We already know that that's a lie, right? We already know that, he's already been caught lying in court. So let's just jump in and cover this. You're going to love this. So listen to this.
Will stay in the UK.
Well, Harry and Meghan's biographer and royal always Omid Scobie joins us now, and it's always lovely to see you. Thank you
for having me back.
I mean, you say you're not a friend, but my goodness me, you have the inside track on all of this.
I've got good sources.
You really do, and some suspect that it might actually be them.
Definitely not true. But...
So right off the bat, they call him to the mat on the fact that he is friends with Harry and Meghan, and he denies it. Something that, again, it's a lie. Then they ask him what he thinks about the coronation. He goes, "Oh, it's an ancient ritual and all these kinds of things." And then he starts talking like this.
But you feel like that actually the lead up to this of what you've seen, that the focus is slightly different to where it's possibly been in previous coronations.
I think in the past, certainly for like Jubilee moments or any kind of big royal events, we're not just excited about the celebration or the historic moment, we're also excited about the person that we're about to celebrate. I think with this, we're excited about the historical moment and what it means for this country and obviously with the world watching us. I don't get the sense that people are excited about Charles himself, and a lot of the polls seem to reflect that.
Translation, we don't want Charles. Then he's asked, "Well, we have all these family issues, but you're saying Harry would always be there, right?" Listen to this.
Absolutely. I think there was never any question about whether he would want to come or not. It was a question at one point of whether he'd be invited, I think. From what I understand, the Sussexes had to wait for some time to really get that confirmation that they were 100% welcome at this event. Of course, this all follows the release of Spare. But for Harry, there was certainly no question about it.
So even though Harry and Meghan's representatives confirmed that they got their invitation at the beginning of April, Omid is saying that the reason they weren't able to respond, essentially, is they didn't know if they were even going to get an invitation. What? Omid then says, "Well, he's still a counselor of state. It's a constitutional issue, and he takes it seriously." I think Omid's forgotten that without Frogmore Cottage, he's not going to remain a counselor of state because he's not domiciled in the UK anymore. Then he continues to talk for Team Harry.
But also, as we've heard from him time and time again in his interviews, despite the pain that he's experienced from his own family, he still cares for them. And, you know, so much can happen over time, and I don't think he'd ever want to look back and regret not being here for that moment.
So Omid is skipping over all the horrible things that Harry and Meghan have said about the royal family, all the bombs he's thrown at them, all the lies that he's told. No, Harry loves his family, even though they've caused Harry lots of pain. Right. Then Omid starts talking about where Harry might be seated in the Abbey.
So now people are wondering where Harry will be. Will he be with the civvies, or will he be with his family members? And if he is, what row will he be in? And I think people will be watching to see that almost as a reflection of where he stands with his family today. But he gets no say.
Now, to be honest, I don't think anybody really cares where Harry's going to be seated as long as it's not next to William. Right. Let's continue.
Has there been very much contact within the family with his father or with his brother or with other members of the family?
Obviously, this is the first time he sees his family face to face since the release of Spare, but I don't think people know that there has been a somewhat regular sort of pattern of conversation between him and his father since the release of that book. Now, have they discussed the details and the points that he wanted to go into? From what I hear, no. But he has had contact with his dad. And of course, there have been some negative moments with the loss of Frogmore Cottage. You know, they lose the keys to that any week now at this point. And of course, he will have spoken to his father about that, but he also discussed his attendance at the coronation with his dad and made it clear that he wanted to be part of it. And I think that was really well received as well. So it's interesting to now compare that to where William and Harry are, which is still in the exact same place that we last saw them.
There's been
minimal contact since the Queen's funeral.
So Omid wants you to believe that Harry and Charles are in regular contact and talking on the phone. Again, I think we all know that is not true. And I think he's on this show telling all this because this is the narrative Harry and Meghan are wanting to put out. Did you guys notice he said, oh yes, they made it clear they wanted to be attending. He left off the fact that they had all kinds of demands. All right. Let's continue to listen.
And so what about Meghan then? Because we know she won't be attending. She's going to be staying at home. I think it's Archie's 4th birthday on the same day, so she's going to have her work cut out for her there. When she came back for the funeral, I mean, even her presence there was criticised. Do you think she's just in a space now where she's like, I've got my happy place, I'm better off here, I'm staying away?
People around the Sussexes guided press at the time that this was very much about Archie's 4th birthday. I disagree with that to some extent because I also know from friends of hers that she's protecting her peace as well. She is aware of how sort of much of the spotlight goes on her when she sets even a foot near the story. And I think a lot of that, although it's often portrayed as intentional that she wants to steal the spotlight, but in this case, should she have simply come over and stood next to her husband, I would imagine the commentary and the narrative on the day would be very different for the days that followed.
So what does that tell you? She's created so many problems. And again, the problem is people don't like her because of her behavior and the things that she said and done against the royal family. But Omid just skips over that and says, well, she just doesn't want to come because she wants to protect her peace. Oh, my goodness. All right, let's finish this up.
Do you think some of the members of the family are quite relieved that she's not there?
I would say so, and I would put it down to the fact that so much of the attention then goes on someone who they would rather the attention didn't go on to. And if you look back at some of Harry and Meghan's biggest problems, it was all down to the fact that everyone was always talking about them and the attention was on them at times when it shouldn't have been.
Translation? Harry and Meghan were just too popular for the royal family, and the royal family was jealous. Then, of course, Omid takes one final swipe at King Charles. Listen to this.
Looking to the future and the direction that the monarchy is headed in, what do you see for its future?
I think a lot of emphasis has gone on, are people excited about the coronation or not? And I think people forget that we have always said we're not excited about royal events right up until like the day of, and then suddenly we're out in the streets waving our bunting and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So what's unusual for the royal family is that they've given the British public the opportunity to decide whether they want to be for or against something to do with them. And we rarely get that option. And we've seen a resounding no come from the public, even from people that feel really passionately about the royal family. So it was definitely a blunder. And I think within the palace, there's a lot of blame that's gone on Lambeth Palace and the Archbishop for sort of highlighting that in the press material.
Well, hopefully those waves of God Save the King will echo down
I have no
Westminster
doubt.
Abbey.
I have no
Oh, there'll be a lot of that.
Yeah.
This is okay.
It's going to be
It's
an
okay.
amazing day, part of history. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, before I give you my message, I wanted you to see this because I just thought this was so perfect. Sky News Australia put up that media writer Sophie Ellsworth said that the problem with Meghan and the reason she's creating so many enemies is that if you criticize her, you're labeled a racist. Well, Andy's mom put up, well, she's half white and I'm white, so all her comments about her character are directed at her white half. Ergo, commentary and no racism. That solves the problem. Oh my God, that's perfect. Hi, everybody. Okay, quick information, just to keep you up to date. So the other day, my my subscriber base ended at 57,540. Then this morning, it dropped to 57,535. Now I'm at 57,544. So it's happening again. I've gone up 100 people and now I'm stuck. I'm not going to gain, not going to lose. And I've got people writing to me again that their like button isn't working. You guys, I've already contacted YouTube so many times. There's nothing I can do about it. I wish my channel would grow. I'm telling you, I'm being shadow banned. In my opinion, this is just like what happened on Twitter when Jack Dorsey was in charge of Twitter. The second that Elon Musk took over, suddenly I have over 11,000 followers. Like, boom. So we knew something was happening. But it's happening on YouTube and I just have no control over it. So I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the letters. I appreciate the emails. Unfortunately, I can't do anything about it. But let's stick in and keep going, shall we? Now, my next bit of information is I want you to know that on the day of the coronation and probably the day after, you may not get a video from me. I have the coronation party. A very good friend of mine, her son is graduating from college that day. She has a graduate party that afternoon. I think after 2 parties back to back, I'm going to be too tired to do a video for the next day. So I may take a day or 2 off and then I'll be back with more content. All right, you guys, you know what I want. Write those comments, make them good because I'm reading them. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you've already hit the button, double check, make sure you're still subscribed. Don't forget to go up into the description box. You'll find the links to my Twitter, my Getter, my Rumble, my email, and there's a physical address in case there's something you want to send. For those of you who've donated to my coffee fund and through the thanks button, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.